Alrighty. So first off, what is Claude Skill? I think most large language models will have their version of a skill, but for Anthropic, for Claude, a skill is a reusable instruction file. That's all it is. And it answers when, what, and how, right? So when am I going to use this? What do I need to do? What steps should I follow? And then should I do it? The rules and constraints. So a Claude skill is actually pretty simple, right? You have Claude, which is this very general large language Anthropic has made, but you want to personalize it to something in your workflow, right? So let's say you're a bookkeeper. Well, you want a set of instructions that Claude can follow to help you with your bookkeeping. Or let's say you wanted to clean up your email, right? Well, everybody has different rules that in their mind that they follow in order to clean up their email. It's just a markdown file. It's literally going to be name.md. MD is the file format for a markdown file, and a markdown file format is just an easy way for large language models to write down, categorize, and list out information for them. So you can open up a markdown file, any .md file, with a text editor, right? So it's a super basic file. There's nothing really mysterious about it. There's a set of, here's an example of one, anatomy of a skill. So you have the skill name, the description. Claude uses this to decide when to invoke it. Okay. And then you can see hashtag is the format for skill title, double hashtag is a step, and then the instruction. Double hashtag is the next step, do this other thing, right? So there are two types of skill. There's global skill and there's project-specific skill, right? So I personally mostly let my skills live globally, right? That most of the skills that I'm using can live across projects. They're not super specific to one project. A lot of times when I create a skill, it's going to be applied to more than one project, so I let it live globally. But you can let it live at the project level too. And I kid you not, this is so easy to do. All you do is say, Claude, make me bookkeeping and let it live globally, right? And then it's literally going to walk you through like, oh, what do you want me to do? Right? And you literally can just type it, say it, whatever, however you work, that's going to be fine. Okay. 3 ways a skill can fire. Explicit, so you do / skill - name. But that is, you will get the outcome that you put in, right? So if you tell it specifically / skill name, you will 100% get that skill. Then you have natural language, so Claude.md tells Claude, when Brady says X, run skill Y, right? So I use natural language, and I bake some of that into my Claude.md. Do my bookkeeping, calls accountant MD skill. And then 3, auto by description. Claude reads the skill's description field and decides if the current task matches this matter. So I use both 2 and 3. But so really you need to find what works best for your workflow. For number 2, you want to make sure you go in and say, hey, when I say A, or when I say B, or when I say C, they're all variations of the same thing that I want you to run skill D, right? So just make sure that if you're going to use natural language, and there's several ways that you can say something, that you tell Claude, hey, when I say this, it means call this skill. Right, and it's going to save that in the Claude.md, and you're going to be able to call that skill just fine. So I have an accountant skill. So I do personal bookkeeping in Wave, and when I have Claude run my bookkeeping, it calls accountant, and it runs through Wave, categorizes all my transactions, does my reconciliation at the end of the month. I have another skill called content-strategy, and this is where when I'm looking to produce content, when I'm getting into it, what I do is I call content-strategy. So I say, please go review, my competitor's video. It'll go review the video. It'll review the engagement, the likes, the dislikes, the comments, when it was posted, how many subscribers they have. It'll look at like SEO, and it'll look at the thumbnail. it'll come up with a set of parameters that it thinks is important of why that video is doing well. Okay, this is something I did as a personal project. Honeyville Ordinances skill references data for Honeyville, Utah. That's where I live. This was just a project I did because I wanted to evaluate some ordinances in the city and I wanted to make proposals of how to make them better. I have an iMessage-Connect skill where it pairs iMessage with my AI assistant. -admin skill, that's the same thing, and I can literally say, hey Claude, clean up my inbox, and it'll go and it'll find all the junk mail that's coming through. It'll unsubscribe from it. It'll call it a spam. It'll delete it, remove it, and it'll just start cleaning things up for me. I have an OpenFOAM-CFD, so I'm a computational fluid dynamics analyst for my normal job. And so this skill goes in, and I've given it instructions of, this might not mean much to you, but, make sure when we're setting up a case, you ask me these questions, right? On, for example, how to resolve your Y plus boundary. Start project. This is one I just made today. Bootstrap a project in Notion. So whenever I'm starting a new project, in my Claude.md, it says whenever I'm starting a new project, I should call the skill start project. It's going to run through effort, it's going to run through impact, it's going to run through timeline, it's going to break the project into phases and then break each of the phases into separate tasks. It's going to upload all that information plus any documents that it creates into Notion. For me, Notion is just, it's a project management software that's really customizable. And in my Notion, it's going to show me phases or tasks that I specifically need to do, and then it's going to assign most of those project tasks to Claude, right? So I can see the ones that I need to do, or I could go to the project level and see all of the tasks that need to be done. And then as we work through the project, this skill is periodically called and it creates updates in Notion so that I make sure that all my project management is happening automatically. I have a transcribe skill, so that transcribes meetings and calls. I have a Twilio skill that I created the other day while I was helping a client, because Twilio has cell phone numbers that you use that are connected to API. These are things that you use in CRMs or text campaigns. And you have to get your text message campaign approved, which is called 10 DLC or something like that. And we've been through it. I went through it 3 times before I finally got approved. My client is on his 4th submission, and I'm pretty sure it's going to pass this time. But I created a skill where all that information can live and say, hey, the next time I work with a client that needs to set up Twilio, these are the things we've learned, things that don't work and things that do work. And then that way, I can work with the client to get their Twilio numbers approved in their campaign faster. I have an underwrite skill where it specifically underwrites real estate that I'm looking at exactly with the numbers and the number cushions that I want. And then I have an Upwork proposal skill, so every time I apply for a job on Upwork, I call the proposal skill, and literally all I do is say, hey, write me a proposal for the following, and then I copy and paste the job description into Claude. And then, so that's using the natural language. That skill, and it very specifically like the type of hook I want to start with, a customized Loom video link. Then it runs through exactly, step by step how I would solve their problem. It asks them a question because potential clients or leads are, more receptive, I guess, if you ask them a question because they feel like psychologically they need to answer. And then I, say, please message me. Let me get started on this for you immediately. Then I copy and paste that over into Upwork, and I make a couple edits on the fly to make it sound a little less AI. But anyways, it does that. It creates like Loom talking points for me. It creates a description. It answers any of their questions. Those are skills that I have made so far to give you an idea of how it works, right? And I just wanted to go in here. So Upwork is a 600 line framework for writing high conversion Upwork proposals. So core rule, every line, can this person solve my problem, right? We want to focus on their problem. We don't want to focus on me. Anti-AI defenses. So I put in forbidden phrases, max 1 dash, because AI, especially Claude, puts in a lot of dashes. And so I'm trying to make it more personal. I'm trying to take out, 100% polished. I'm trying to to make it look like a human actually wrote it. Required opener, I put in an emoji, I put in a phrase that's different than everybody else, and I put in my Loom link all before 200 characters so that they can see it in the summary. So hopefully that's like calling their attention. I've got a couple projects out of it so far. Pricing logic, right now I'm at 25 hour per baseline until I build my social proof and on Upwork, and I can prove that my time is worth more than that. For engineering work, it's mostly project-based, and so that I really love project-based because you don't have to worry about what it is per hour. It's just the value of the project is this, and I get to go do it. So my price per hour on fixed rate jobs ends up being quite a bit higher. I don't have to prove that my time is worth $50 an hour, $75 an hour. It's just purely based on the value of the project. It's Brady_skills.md every run. So this is kind of a memory file that I have, and every time I do a project in Upwork or I do a personal project, I go and update Brady_skills.md. And that way, when it's writing the proposal, it goes through and looks at the summary of all the skills that I have and is able to include them in the proposal based on the job description. Avoid claiming tools you haven't used. AI can... Oh, what's the word? I mean, there's a word for it, but it basically lies, right? And it's not on purpose, but, you know, let's say the job description says, oh, I need someone that knows REST API, right? And you don't know REST API, it'll say, like, I've, you know, done XYZ projects with REST API calls. So I put in my skill, do not make stuff up. You know, if it's not explicitly here, don't do it. Outputs 2 versions, a short 50 words, full 300 to 400 words, ready to paste, right? The jobs I typically do are typically more technical, so, you know, I almost always go with the 300 words, and I might cut it down a little bit or add a little bit, but that's kind of how that works. Here's my accountant one. Browser automated bookkeeping workflow for Wave. Self-fetches your password from macOS keychain via the security CLI. Never prompts you. So this is important from a security standpoint. Like, my passwords for this do not live in Claude, right? Anything you put into Claude goes to Anthropic servers and essentially becomes security fault in your workflow because it's exposed somewhere. Now, the company's not going to do anything with it, but if someone is able to hack in and grab that data, you know, they get your passwords, your APIs. Anyways, so all this does is it lives in my keychain, and I call a Python script to put it in, right? And so it's never actually going into Anthropic's password context. Token efficiency rules. I use Playwright MCP server to accomplish this. So in the beginning, it was taking way too many snapshots, and it was just burning through tokens every single click. So no snapshots after every click. Pulls all transactions in one evaluate call. So you can put token efficiency rules into your skill. Knows my chart of accounts, Home Depot, materials, square fees, merchant fees. End-to-end automated. So I mean, I literally just say, go do my bookkeeping, and it logs in, it pulls in categorized transactions, categorizes all of them, marks them as reviewed, and then it basically gives me a summary to approve before it acts, right? Skips noise explicitly, ignores Wave's auto update history panel. So the interesting thing about skill, you might build a skill, and then the next day it might look different because as you work through with the skill, you're going to refine it. Okay? Start project, auto fires when you commit to a new project, bootstraps Notion, so triggered by phrases like, let's start a new project before any code is written. 2-round scoping interview, so you know, I want it to ask me lots of questions. I want to plan out the project really well because it's actually going to be more token efficient to do it all the work up front. Conversational phase planning creates my Notion scaffold, project page, link task, project brief doc. This is my lever launch workspace. That's the name of the company I'm starting. So via reference Notion, reference_Notion_workspace.md. Correct database IDs and field. Prevents duplicates by searching the project's database by title first when unsure. So anyways, these are things, you know, I think I have about 5 projects on my hand that I'm working on right now, and then I have my personal tasks as well. So I have my personal life tasks that I need to get done. I have my tasks for each one of my projects that I need to get done. I have calendar appointments. I have my normal day job that I'm working overtime on that. So I started this Notion database to try and organize everything. And I just had Claude basically do all the organizing on that Notion for me. So anyways, these are things that I've done just to give you some ideas on how you can start building your own skills for your own workflow. So I'm going to stop explaining. You guys need to start automating. Just to recap, a skill is a .md file with some front matter and some steps. So what, when, how, right? Those are the questions it answers. You can store it in Claude/skills. You can also do projects.claude/skills, depending on how you want to organize it. The skills can self-trigger from natural language. You don't have to use / to call it. Just do it if you want. These existing skills collapse hours of repeat work. I don't have to categorize transactions. I don't have to clean up my email. I don't have to, my project planning becomes more concise and targeted. The next skill is whatever you're about to explain to Claude for the second time. That is the #1 takeaway. Anyways, thank you for checking out this video. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. I hope you have a good day. Bye.